The first thing I usually do when I get invited to a networking event is to try to find a way out of it. I'm going to give you 7 powerful tips that I recently applied at a networking event that I was just at so that you can get the most out of your networking adventures. Now, tip number 1 is just to recognize your value as an introvert. I think if you're an introvert, you probably think you're terrible at networking. And the reason for that is that you're probably using extroverts as a yardstick to measure yourself against. But the reality is that talking is not the best measure of effective communication. Things like the ability to listen deeply, to be thoughtful in your responses, to be able to offer insightful feedback. These are all hugely valuable in communication, and you as an introvert are naturally gifted in all of these things. And remember, you are not going to be the only introvert there. There's going to be other introverts there as well, and they are going to be thrilled to be able to talk to another introvert. I also think introverts can bring a sense of grounding and a sense of calm to an event that's otherwise kind of chaotic with multiple conversations going on all around you. So at the event I was just at this past weekend, I got the opportunity to see Danielle Laporte speak on stage. And one of the things I noticed about her that was so different was that, a lot of the other speakers at this event, they were really animated. They were walking all over the stage, gesticulating wildly. They were really bubbly and enthusiastic, and that was great. But when Danielle stepped on, she was calm, she was grounded, and she just radiated that energy out to the crowd. And quite a few people that I spoke with after seeing Danielle speak mentioned that about her presentation, that they could just feel this wonderful calm energy coming off the stage. I think a lot of people really, really like that. And if that's you, then you can feel confident about bringing that same type of energy. So really important here to recognize that introverts are just as effective at networking. We just need to embrace that we do it in different but equally valid ways. Tip number 2 is to define a clear outcome as to why you want to go to this event in the first place. I know for me, it's really hard for me to show up for something and be at my best if it doesn't feel purposeful. If 10 minutes in, I'm asking, why am I here? And I don't actually have a good answer for that. So for me, in my business right now, I'm currently expanding my affiliate program. So I knew that when I went to this event, I was hoping to form some relationships with people in a similar space as me, so that hopefully over time, as I nurture these new relationships, that might lead to affiliate collaborations down the line. Knowing that was the reason why I was going made it a lot easier to try and understand who were the people I wanted to speak with, what type of conversations I wanted to have, and it just felt a lot more fruitful at the end of the event because I knew why I was there to begin with. Tip number 3 is to practice your introduction. You want to make your introduction clear and concise so that the person you're having a conversation with knows exactly who you are and exactly what you do. So this was me when I first started going to these events. Hi, I'm Rachel. I'm kind of in the self-publishing space. It's kind of complicated, but I started self-publishing, I don't know, I think it was back in 2014, and I got really successful at it. And from there I thought, I kind of had a lot of people asking me, how are you doing that? And what is it that you do and how are you doing it? And so I decided I was going to start a digital course. I've also got this YouTube channel where I teach people how to do that as well. And I've got this course that I've launched last year as well, which just teaches people how to take a skill and turn that into an online business. So that's what? Nobody wants to talk to that person, right? That person seems like they have no confidence at all. They don't know who they are. They don't know what they're doing. They haven't put any forethought into forming an introduction that actually makes sense. No one wants to talk to that person, right? Now contrast that with how I introduce myself now. Hi, my name is Rachel Harrison-Sund. I help entrepreneurs leverage self-publishing so that they can increase their authority and their audience and their income. Now, is that perfect? Maybe not. But at least now I can get it out in under 5 seconds, and the person I'm speaking with actually knows what it is I do, and then they can form an opinion as to whether or not they want to carry on the conversation further. Now that I've learned how to properly introduce myself, oftentimes I'll get, oh wow, that sounds really interesting. Tell me a little bit more. And that's what you're going after, right? You want to be able to start a conversation. Now again, you really don't need to make this perfect, and whatever it is that you say is probably going to evolve over time as you really start to dial in exactly what it is you do and who it is that you serve and all of those wonderful things. But just get it as clear and concise as you can so you can spit it out in under 10 seconds and people actually have a good sense of what it is that you do afterward. Now make sure you try practicing this out loud. Just this past weekend even, like I hadn't been at an event in a while, so I was saying it out loud as I was driving there just to create some of that muscle memory so that when it came time to actually say it out loud to someone, I didn't have to think about it. My brain and my mouth just kind of like took over and out it came. You might also want to try practicing on some friends or family members or colleagues or something like that so that they can hear it and give you any feedback, just to make sure that it is actually clear what it is you're trying to say. Now, when you've created this clear and concise introduction that says who you are, what you do, and who you help, you are just naturally going to feel that much more confident when it comes time to introducing yourself to someone that you've never met before. Tip number 4 is to dress like a boss. Now, if you're one of those introverts like me who just doesn't talk a whole lot, sometimes it can feel like you're just kind of getting lost in the sea of extroverted conversations that's happening around you. So one of the ways that I like to stand out is to just make sure I'm always dressed my absolute best. Now, you want to be comfortable, of course, like you're probably never going to find me in a pair of heels at one of these events or like ever for that matter. But I always want to make sure I'm wearing something that makes me feel like $1,000,000. Now there's this weird psychological thing that happens, rightly or wrongly, when a well-dressed, well-groomed person enters the room, we just tend to attribute a higher status to that person. And that does tend to attract people to that person because of that perceived higher status. And again, I'm not saying that this is like right or wrong, it's just kind of a psychological fact that you can capitalize on. Not only that, but when you show up well-groomed and well-dressed, that's going to give you some extra confidence as well. Tip number 5 is to think quality over quantity. Now, when I first started networking, I really thought the aim was to just go and speak to as many different people as I possibly could. And that felt not only super draining as an introvert, because that's kind of what makes us an introvert, is we tend to get drained in social situations. It just felt completely overwhelming. When I realized the aim was actually to have a lot fewer, more in-depth, more high-quality conversations and not to speak to as many people as possible, that was just a huge, huge relief for me. I'm just going to seek out like 3 or maybe 5 people who I can have a bit longer of a conversation with and go a little bit deeper in that conversation. So with that in mind, you can be a little bit more selective as well with who you speak with. Now, one of the things you can do, if it's an option, is you can try and check out the attendee list. So sometimes these events will have somewhere you can go online and it'll actually list the people who are there and what they do and whatnot. If that's available, that can be a great way to kind of like prepare in advance, see who's going, and pinpoint 3 or maybe 5 people that you'd actually like to have a conversation with, because it's someone who you think that kind of a conversation will align with the desired outcome that you set out as to why you want to go to this thing in the first place. Another way to pinpoint the right people to speak to is if you know an extrovert going to the event. If you're going with an extroverted friend, or if there's an extroverted colleague that's at the event that you know beforehand, you can ask them, hey, so-and-so, is there anyone here that you think I should connect with specifically? Extroverts are usually good at having the pulse on who's who, and they've probably met everyone there already within like the first 10 minutes. So you can just ask them, is there anyone specifically here that you think would make a good connection for me? That kind of takes the pressure off you a little bit, and the extrovert gets to do what they do best, which is talk and connect people. So like it's a total win-win all the way around. Another way to facilitate these sort of fewer but better conversations and interactions is just to attend smaller, more intimate events. So dinners are really great for this. One of the reasons is you're all plunked down at a table, right? So you've got one person here, one person here, one person here. You're not actually having to go up to someone randomly and introduce yourself. You're already like sitting around a table, so it just makes the conversation flow a little bit more easily. And because everyone's usually not getting up and moving around a whole lot, you're able to go a lot more deep with your conversation and form a much deeper connection over the course of whatever, like an hour or 90 minutes. When you have one of those more high quality conversations, instead of one that's really fleeting and over in just a matter of minutes, you're going to be more memorable. simply because you've spent more time talking to that one person. You're going to be able to form a much deeper connection, which is something that we as introverts prefer over shallow interactions. And those are the types of interactions that are going to turn into longer lasting, more deep connections. They can turn into beautiful friendships, and they can turn into lucrative business partnerships down the line as well. Tip number 6 is to recharge as necessary. So just by our nature as introverts, socializing for long periods of time, just being in the presence of other people for long periods of time is draining for us. So we need to keep our batteries charged before, during, and after a big event. And don't be afraid to take time out during the event to recharge as well. This is something that I really need to do if I'm at an all-weekend event where, like if it's a conference-style event where there's speakers all day, and then you're networking in between the speakers. That gets really difficult for me, especially if there's a lot of learning going on as well. I just need extra time to process. So oftentimes, between speakers, this is when the extroverts all want to get together and chat, and I'm usually like, get me out of here. So I'll usually take 15-20 minutes, and if the outdoors is easily accessible, you can head outdoors, take some deep breaths, get some fresh air, stretch a little bit, just kind of like take a few moments to recharge. If that's not available, I will just literally go into a corner, pull out my phone, just to like give yourself just a few minutes at least to just kind of recharge a little bit. Don't ever be afraid to do that. You're not going to be able to get out of the event what you came to the event to get if your battery is completely dead. So take those little moments to recharge so that you can actually get what you came for. Tip number 7, and probably the most important tip of all, is to follow up. And I think as introverts, well, I don't want to speak for everyone, but for me at least, this is the thing that I was probably the worst at up until quite recently. But you didn't go to this event simply so that you could forget about all of those connections the very next day. So if this isn't something that comes naturally to you, like it doesn't come naturally to me, you want to think about ways that you can actually systematize this. So what this can look like is just a spreadsheet where you can actually enter in the names of the people and their details into a spreadsheet, so you've got them all together. Because the more and more of these things that you go to, that list's going to get longer and longer, and you're going to forget, like, oh, what was it that Marjorie did again? Was she in like advertising? Or wait a minute, no, maybe she was the one that was in marketing. If you put all these things into some sort of a system like a spreadsheet, you can go back to it and you can see who it is, what they do, when you met, what the collaboration opportunity might be. It's so helpful. So a good friend of mine, Linda Sadu, she actually created something called the Partnership Portal. And this is something that I've just started to implement after I've been to this last event. And I am absolutely loving it so far. If you're interested in checking it out, I've left a link down to that in the description down below. Once you've got a place to house all of your new contacts, all of your new relationships, you want to make sure that you're scheduling time to follow up. This is how you nurture those relationships, and how those relationships can down the line turn into really deep connections and friendships, and possibly even lucrative business partnerships. That really is the entire point of going to these things to begin with, is to form these relationships. And of course, relationships take time to nurture and to develop and to deepen. So think of all of these contacts that you're making at these events as seeds that you're planting, and if you continue to nurture these seeds over time, some of them are going to bloom. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning, I help entrepreneurs leverage self-publishing to build their authority, audience, and income through self-publishing simple, easy-to-create books like journals and planners. If this is something that you're interested in, I left a free guide, how to publish your first low-content book in less than a day. You can grab that down in the description below. And as someone who does not love networking, I'm going to go out on a limb here and guess that you probably don't love social media either. So check out this video next if you want to see how I built my 6-figure online business without using social media. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please subscribe, hit the bell so that you can be notified the next time one of these videos go live. Please don't forget to give it a like. That is going to push this video out to more people just like you who will find it helpful. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.